You love it when you bite into a sandwich and the mayonnaise squirts all over you? Good times. Welcome to Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I'm your host, Rich Barris, the People's Pundit. Don't forget, if you like the videos, to like them and share them far and wide. We're everywhere, Truth, X, everywhere. But the best place, of course, to follow us is right down below. peoplespundit.locals.com. peoplespundit.locals.com. All right. I have one pulled up as a baseline, as a reference, and the rest will move over to another tab. We'll run it live, and you know how quirky it can be, so bear with me. But these are the shows I like to do the most, where we could just get into the numbers and talk about what is going on. For those of you who do follow on locals, you've been looking at what I'm about to show for a while. And some of you have been with us for a really long time. So you may remember when Pennsylvania, in the raw machine learning, by the way, AI has been developed. Obviously, it's much more sophisticated. And machine learning has always been there. And it is also more sophisticated. And they're even integrated at this point. Okay. But, I mean, we're not talking about some dramatic difference because of technology, especially not in a state like Pennsylvania, which is where we're going to go first, because there's voter registration by party. And you may remember about a year or so ago when that law kicked in where it's automatic voter registration, and a lot of Republicans usually can't stand that stuff, and they were worried about it. But I went on basically every show in creation and ran around and told people that the adult population that is not registered to vote is actually more Republican than the rest of the state. So this will help Republicans identify who their voters are that they need to motivate, that they have not been motivating. Now, they're stupid and they don't do this correctly. They don't know what they're doing, so have not been able to grasp this or get a grip on it. The wrong people get the wrong money, lots of money, and they're not good at their jobs. They don't know what to look for. They don't know what they're doing. So this is organic, and this is because of Donald Trump. I'm just going to flat out say this right now. Pennsylvania is a state where Republicans as a brand, the Republican Party as a brand, will struggle. They struggled in the, you saw, special election, which was a heavily Trump district. They lost it by about 400 votes. They're struggling on many different levels, but the votes are there. And the state has moved dramatically since. For those of, the OGs out there, you'll remember when Donald Trump was going against Hillary Clinton, and it was like D+8 statewide. Democrats had like a 48, or actually it was more like a 44 to 36, because there's two things happening here. Democrats are falling, and they have fallen dramatically as a share of the registered population in Pennsylvania. And Republicans have ticked up over that period. And that period 100% began with Donald John Trump. Fast forward to 2020, we could already see that, some modeling that we would run, and I'm talking about the baseline, where we're not going to filter out active voters. We're not going to filter out records. The only thing we do filter out off the bat for the baseline are the records that have a change of address flag, which are records that Democrats like to illegally hand in. That's why absentee ballot voting is so exploitable. This is what PolitiFact would not tell you when they attacked me. And the rest, if you have unsolicited or unregulated, in many ways, mail-in balloting, there will be ballots that will be obtained that are for people who no longer live in the state. Or maybe they do, but they're in some other part of the state, and the state will have to get some duplication. You may go and actually, if it happens to you, somebody may cast your absentee ballot. It's a bogus one. It's an illegal vote. But then when you get to the polling place and you want to vote yourself, they're going to tell you it's a duplicate ballot, right? So they'll have to, Arizona's got a different name for it. Pennsylvania's got a different name for it, but they effectively have to cancel out your vote. And then it's a provisional, and the judges will have to go through. Your vote won't even be counted on election day. All right. So we did see it go down to roughly D+6 in 2020. It was knocking on the door, of D+4 in some modeling, but it was not in the baseline where we just filter out and we're looking at tons of records. And to give you an idea of what this means, when we just filter out change of address flags and likely deceased, you're looking at 210 million records. Now, 210 million people don't vote, correct? Right. So there are records that are really not real. They're ineligible, they're dead, they're change of address flags, they're just trash that organizations registered in the hope that they can go out and ballot chase it later. It's garbage. And the big problem is the change of address, because nobody's telling their supervisor or election or their county clerk or whatever that they left the state, cancel their record. We actually had to do that when we left the state of Florida, and it would not have happened on its own, right? Eventually, there are ways that it could get flagged, but it wasn't going to happen. All right, let's take a look first at the state of Pennsylvania, what it is now when we simply, and when we go through this, and we're going to get you guys the national too, think about the polling you're seeing out there. Think about the numbers, the D pluses you're seeing. Pennsylvania was actually R plus in 2024. It was about even in 2020. So again, when you see these Democratic advantages like D+6 or 8, like it used to be in Pennsylvania, but it's not voting like that. It's not a matter simply of Republicans outvoting Democrats, although that did happen. That's not the only case. That's not the only case of what's happening here. It's because these are the records that are on file, and many of them are trash, illegal, and should be purged. Okay. Now, when we pull records, we do purge them. Like when we're going in a poll, we don't pull trash. There are things that people do. They limit the high connect landlines, for instance. Most pollsters do or should do that. Maybe even active voters, right? So they are that, and it's not necessarily a voter that has triggered that because they have voted in an election. That's not it. That's vote history, and that's different. There are a number of different attributes that can tell you whether or not the record is legitimate, it's valid, and that will trigger an active status. Okay. All right. But hold on. That's all. I just want you to have that in mind as we look at that. Did I not share this to social media? Yes, I did. Liar, liar, pants on fire. Maybe not you. No, I did not with YouTube. You're right. And if there's any loud stuff in the background, it's the first day the kids are home from school, so they're hanging out. All right. And they're more than hanging out. They're having themselves a grand old time, believe me. All right. They got friends and stuff. I told them, knock yourself out. Daddy's got to work. Have the pool. Don't destroy. Enjoy yourselves. All right. Let's pull it up. Let's take a look at it. You might remember from the 2020 voter file analysis, this was D+4, I believe. Or no, D+6, maybe. We'd have to go back and look. But it's not now. That's for damn sure. This is the baseline when you just filter out or exclude. Exclude deceased and exclude movers, recent movers. All right. And I know it's a little bit hard for you guys to see there. But as you can see, Democrats and Republicans are just about even. Just about even. Not even, but just about even. If we were simply to go with active status, and we will, you will see how this will change dramatically. We'll also show you what our 2024 modeling looked like on what we thought, that was going to be the case in 2024. But here we are now. I mean, it's unbelievable how it's changed. Democrats, about 42.9%. Republicans, about 41.4%. So much of Democratic registration is trash. In a state like Nevada, they did an amazing job purging that trash. The same is not true in the state of Pennsylvania. All right. They have had some efforts to remove the garbage, but man, that was an old episode. But years ago, we did an episode which the right people saw, and we showed that even though Clark County was roughly 70% of the votes statewide, it had over 80% of the trash on their records. Why does that matter? When you have very little faith in the electoral process, and people see votes coming in on election day, election night, and one result is there, and one county is the only county not reporting, and 3 days later, 4 days later, 5 days later, ballots are still trickling in, and people are still going through them. There's no real process to set. Like, if I wanted to stuff a ballot in Clark County, especially now that we have drop-offs, but this was even before the time of drop-offs, there would be no process if there were corrupt officials, which there often are. We need to stop pretending like there aren't. That's why we need laws. That's why we need guidelines. That's why we need verification procedures. That's why we need election day deadlines. Because why? Because suddenly, if you're a civil servant, you're a freaking angel or something, you're a saint. You're still a human being. You're still flawed and fallible, and you're still capable of exploiting the system, breaking the law, and doing everything else the rest of the population is capable of doing. So to act as if we're just gonna lay it at the feet of these civil servants and we're never going to worry about whether or not they're corrupt is ludicrous. All that trash in Clark County was just there for the plucking. It was low-hanging fruit. And of course it ruins, it lowers, what's the word I'm looking for? Erodes trust in the system because people aren't stupid. It's common sense. Doesn't matter if the New York Times says there's no evidence of widespread fraud. It's common sense. And oh, by the way, there is. You could go to the Department of Justice website and you could search for election. That's it. Just search for election and you will see a ton of cases. In this state, by the way, there's one of them. It was a massive case right before the 2020 election. And it alleged judges, former representatives, and of course, third-party groups all were in on it. If you got everybody like that, then it's easy to take that low-hanging fruit and mix it in with the late arriving ballots or the drop-offs now that nobody gives you there's no, in most of these states, there's no rule or regulation like there is in Florida saying you must report how many ballots you have. And they have to be accounted. They're tallied in a machine. It's not like some secretary of election or supervisor of election is going, let's see how many votes were cast. Let's see how much the margin is. Yeah, we got about 65 still, and there's no tally. That's ridiculous. That's like Tammany Hall's wet dream. Anyway, as you can see here, Republicans have gained considerably since we did this before or slightly after before and after the 2020 election. Democrats have collapsed from what was a high of 48%. They were almost a full majority in registration. Now, the reason it was still competitive with some races is because many of these Democrats, according to our polling, which was right, it was very right, it was spot on right. According to our polling, roughly 14% of registered Democratic men will actually tell you that they are a Republican. Okay? So, and by the way, that they were voting for Trump. So it was that the entire narrative that there were going to be all these Republican women, flocking to Harris was ludicrous. There was never any evidence for that. In their dreams, maybe, but in the polling, it was never there. What there was about 8% of Democratic women and about 14% of Democratic men who told us they were Republican. That was on top of certain Democrats crossing over anyway. And Trump won the crossover battle, meaning he got more of the other party to vote for him instead of Hillary Clinton and for him instead of Harris. He lost it to Biden in 2020, by the way. All right. So Republicans have moved up from, I believe what they were last year was roughly 38%. They've moved up. Democrats have moved down. That's the name of the story. If we were to just tighten, and let me do it here on the back end so you guys don't see it. Actually, you could see it. I'm just going to make sure. Where's voter status? Voter status, profile voters. What's going on here? Profiled, income and net worth, contributor, home and dwelling type, home market value. God, these are, I love it. Don't get me wrong. I love it. But the attributes are getting out of control. Totally out of control. We could just do it by turnout probability modeling. Yeah, let's do it by that. Okay. So, yeah, let's do it by that. That's great. All right, let me put this up. I got to remove this. We'll go back. We'll share the other screen. Here we go. We're back. That was quick. That was painless. All right. Let's do it by modeling. Okay? Instead of just saying, well, the active one's here, turnout probability modeling. Midterm, general, presidential. We could do midterms too, so I could show you. There is I don't want to say dramatic, but there is a significant advantage because of the realignment for Democrats, okay? Let's do a presidential general. And let's say 50. Let's do 50. Okay. Obviously, the upper is going to be 100. Let's update it. Let me do there's always a telltale way to know whether or not you were spot on something. I can't tell you that because then the world's going to know, but I'm going to look at the number. Okay, it's got to be a little bit higher. 1 second. Or a little bit lower, excuse me. Let's go to 30. And this is because of Trump turning out low propensity voters. I'm telling you right now. Which is going to help actually shift the sample more Republican. Wait. And I mean, I'm not trying to do that. That's just Trump this is the reality of what happened in the state of Pennsylvania. Close. I have a notification, which is probably my that's almost spot on. Okay. Let's run the analysis report, generate the report. I could sit for hours and do this. The other state I want to look at is Texas, because you might remember, if you're one of us, you may remember how close Texas got, okay? Oh, boom. Democrats completely lose their advantage. And Democrats did tick up a tiny little bit, right? But Republicans did as well. All right. So they lose there too. It goes to 1. And if we were to keep going, we're going to get right around exactly where the turnout level was for 2024. If we keep going down, you will see it more and more. All right. So that's Pennsylvania. We don't have to stay in Pennsylvania. You guys get the gist. More states, the better in this episode. Wouldn't you agree? All right. Let's look at New Jersey. Texas is another one I want to look at because we have done it before. All right. New Jersey, though, is a similar case with Pennsylvania. Also, recently, fairly recently, implemented a voter registration, mandatory automatic voter registration provision. And that was or should have allowed Republicans to identify voters all over New Jersey that don't participate. Anybody who's ever lived in New Jersey knows this is one of these states where there are people just living among you that never vote. I mean, and they're definitely working class people. They're those kind of people. All right. This is going to return all of New Jersey's records, which, again, I must stress, are extremely dirty. All right. 4.3 million people turned out to vote in the state of New Jersey in 2024. It was a decent turnout. All right. Yet, there are 4.2 million records here. Keep that in mind. Now, I know the last time we did New Jersey, so I remember the number. All right. And by the way, if you're a supporter on locals, you would remember the number as well. All right. Republicans were about 21%. They are now up to 25. Democrats once had nearly, no, it was 20. It was because they were 41. Yeah. Democrats had a 20-point advantage the last time we ran this in 2020. And we showed it for everybody in locals to see. That's down now because Democrats have fallen at 37.46 and Republicans are up to 24.50. There is also, like in New York, a conservative party. You've seen like a collapse of some of these third parties, and the nuns are a huge group. So you can see how there is a way to put together a winning coalition in the state of New Jersey if you are a Republican, even with just 24%, 24.5%. And there's a long way to go in the state of New Jersey. And so that is let me just do it real quick. 25, let's round, 25, 38, that's a 7-point shift. And we all know it was actually more than that in the actual vote. So that tells you that this group that's highlighted right here, the nuns, shifted dramatically. And again, I'm going to say this again. This is Donald Trump. He's going to, there's a little bit of data disturbance here. It's like, we are dealing with the Trump era overall since we've been doing these for you guys. But I really feel like there's a false reason to celebrate for Republicans if you're just a Republican and you expect the party to go back to the party of Republicans instead of Donald Trump, Trumplican. And actually, that's not fair to say because Donald Trump is much more representative of the overall history of the Republican Party, of what a Republican is. In our lifetime, that changed dramatically because after the Nixon era, they were kind of lost in the wilderness, right? And then Reagan came around. He revamped it for a little bit. However, his vice president, whom he supported, and this is like, Reagan's a telltale sign for Donald Trump. You want your legacy to survive? You better make sure that you leave the party in better hands than Ronald Reagan did. Now, Donald Trump already did do something better, which is pick a better vice president. But there is a lot of trash out there. I got a clip of somebody who said something really stupid today. Donald Trump's entire team backed this guy. His pollster backed him, and I had to attack the pollster for being a piece of crap and releasing bogus numbers so he could make more money off of the donors and the election. And I think we might all know who I'm talking about. But I'd rather talk about numbers than maybe we'll make fun of him at the end if somebody reminds me. But it's really not funny. He said something incredibly stupid. It's very much not America first, which is what the Republican Party indeed was about for most of its history. All right. All right. But yeah, let's go to Texas. Everything's bigger in Texas, baby. Texas was looking like it was getting much closer in 2020. Now, Trump wound up winning it comfortably. He did. He won it comfortably. But it did look like it was getting to be, it's a big state. Give it some time. All right. And to give you some reference again, in the state of Texas in 2024, 11,380,000 plus people voted in the state of Texas. You could see here there are many more than that on the voter rolls in the state of Texas. Okay, let's run it. Give it time. It is big, so expect this to take a bit. Oh, that was quick. All right. Unknowns are a lot. They were getting about even. Democrats are inferred because there's no registration in Texas. Independents obviously do back. These inferred do back Republicans in higher numbers, but you can see that inference. There's a flip side of this. You'll look at a state like Minnesota, and it'll be a little bit crazy as well. But that is basically the Democratic base in that state. All right. And gender looks right. Let me just look at some other stuff. Race, it's about right. I mean, the unknowns are mostly white. I mean, honestly, completed college looks right. Well, you can see the Democratic base has gotten bigger over the years in Texas. Another reason to think of what's going to happen when they're gone. Let's look at Georgia. Speaking of which, another one that is inferred. To be totally honest, I read that upside down last time. But it was close the last time we ran it in Texas. It was close like that. Inference modeling did show the Democratic base grew considerably. It used to be about 25%. It's not anymore. Run Georgia, which is also inferred. It's probably going to be a little bit too Republican, to be honest. Let's see what it is. Yeah, this is also without the modeling. Ooh, we got to go back. Sorry, guys. We got to go back. That's all right. Let's get the baseline of everything first. That's about right. So it was in 2020, it was about even in Georgia now. It did tick a little bit to the right, ticked about 3.5 points to the right, because it was even in 2020 for Georgia. But when we up the ante here and we go to models, let's just do a very basic turnout probability of 50% or higher. Okay. Yeah, let's do 50%. Let's do it again. Let's see how close we get to the actual turnout level too. All right. 5.25 million voted in Georgia in 2024. Let's see how close we get to that. Very close. Very close. We'd have to reduce it a hair, but I'm almost going to guarantee if we go down, it'll get more. And this is part of the realignment. That's what we should expect. You guys are seeing this, right? Yeah, you're good. Come on, load up. And there you get the real story. Okay. And that's very close to what the actual turnout model was in the state of Georgia in 2024. All right. If we go back to Texas, I have no doubt we're going to see the same thing. So 44.5% Republican, 36.2%. When you get these lower turnout elections, it's going to get more Democratic. All right. Even states like Texas and Georgia could be closer than expected because of who the Republican base is now. All right. Let's go back and do that again. Let's run a model there and let's do just a basic of 50 and see how close. That's interesting because with Pennsylvania, we had to go down even a little bit more to get right to the turnout. Let's see how close we get in the state of Texas. I always like to run the count first. And you guys on locals, I will send you out that Pennsylvania PDF. I'll do that, but then I'll also run it again with the turnout modeling that gets it right around what it was in 24 anyway. It was right spot, pretty much spot on. And you'll see the difference. It's more important than ever if you're a Republican to get there. It goes shifted about, if it was 3, then it was shifted about 6 points Republican. All right, so what's the total number there? Unique individuals 10.8. We're a little low. Let's go down and try to mess with it a little bit. See if we can't get it a little bit closer to the actual turnout. Let's go to 35%. Run it again, see what the number is. We're looking for close we can to get to like 11.4, 11.38. Closer, but watch, it'll get more Republican. If the emails load up. Okay. I mean, it's a lot to ask for the thing to spit out email. almost 7 million emails that quick. 6.4. There you go. So you can see Republicans 38.6 now, Democrats 35.9. If we went down more, you would see Republicans tick even higher, tick even higher. Let's go to New Jersey real quick and do that again. We did not do it for New Jersey. I don't know why I'm starting with 50. We should just start. That's like a high likely voter model. In New Jersey, we're looking like for close we can to get to 4.2. That's pretty damn close. Okay. It's not on the dot, but I'm just trying to demonstrate what I'm talking about. And there we have Republicans tick up from 24 to 28. Democrats are 40.7. Okay. So actually, they both went up a little bit, but it did look like Republicans went up a little bit more. But Trump won independents like overwhelmingly. So, and he won obviously he's winning. See, this is why it's cool to look at this stuff, guys, because you look at those exit polls and they, looking at the crossover vote, it simply doesn't really make sense when you know what's in the voter file. Now, I know identification and registration are different. One is fluid, one is static. And I've showed you in the past, like the example of Utah was a great example. What is on record and what people actually tell you in a poll can vary. But this is a significant difference. If you look at they had they cut their budget. I forgot. Last year's exit polls, the budget were cut. So some states aren't even in the exit polls, or at least not published, right? All right, now let's look at some other key states. Where are you? Where are you, beautiful? There you are. Let's look overall at the Silver State, which once upon a time had a D+8 advantage, including the crap. Those days are over, as you can clearly see. All right. Republicans have sliced the Democratic advantage. It is nothing now. Trump won the state of Nevada. Sam Brown lost the state of Nevada. Why? Because there are registered Democrats, many of whom, by the way, especially Hispanics, who didn't change their registration to Republican. Many did and have, but many did not. And Donald Trump won more of them, more of the Democratic share than the Republican candidates did in just about every single key swing battleground state or even marginal battleground state. And then you have some states that shifted to the right dramatically, like California in the Trump era overall. California, people don't realize this. California and New Jersey were the only two states that shifted more to Trump from 2016 to 2020. And while it's still obviously a very blue state, on New Jersey, not so much. But while it's very blue state, it helps us to understand what's going on, especially because it's so big with so many different regions and different people. So you can really isolate there, like what is going on. It's obviously the cowboy Hispanics, in the Central Valley, the core of California, the working class, farmer country, right? They are Trumpy as hell, but they're not sold on the Republican Party at all. All right, so let's go back. And you can see the nuns here. By the way, Donald Trump also did way better with the nuns than Sam Brown did. And we could probably get that number for you actually real quick. Yeah, we can get it for you. Those kids, like, she's so loud. Such a loud kid. Well, I wonder where she got that from, because it clearly wasn't me. Where's the scene? CNN usually does it better and just lays it out better. All right, here we go. In the state of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 states were published exit polls. Arizona, Florida, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Texas, Wisconsin. We knew that was coming, that they were going to have a budget cut. All right, so when we go to party, I'm just going to read this to you guys while I'm here. Find party. All right, R+2 electorate. It says Trump and Harris basically tied with independents. I don't believe that at all. I think that, and Trump, well, I guess it is if they identified still as Democrats, but Trump won more of them than Harris did, which he did. All right, now let's look at Sam Brown, which is not going to go well. Going down party ID with Sam Brown lost 7% of Republicans to Rosen, which is about 2 percentage points more than Donald Trump. He only picked up 5% of Democrats, but he wound up losing independents by 6. So that's a significant underperformance. He got 47% of the Latino vote, but he only won the white vote 49-45. He won 16% of the black vote, and they basically tied with other ethnic groups. If, however, you do compare that to Donald Trump in this state, it is actually a remarkable result. Where is race? So Trump won whites by more. He won them by 10, which is actually a lot less. Our polling was very right in this area that Donald Trump was going to eke out a win with Latinos, a few points, which he did. He won the other racial groups, which he did. Also, you may remember me saying that we had Asians like 60-40 for Trump in Nevada, which threw me off. I didn't like it. Barnes came on and he said, "You're right. It's a different Asian community, and you're going to see some, you're not going to see these massive, 60-65% margins for among whites anymore. For Republicans, that's not going to happen." And he was absolutely right. Trump won Asians in Nevada 61-38, almost identical to our 60-40 split. 49-47, he won Latinos, and he won 17% of the black vote, along with winning whites by 10, which is a much narrower margin. But in this state, Latinos are 1/5 of the electorate. All right. All right. Now let's go back to our modeling and let's do 50. 50 worked for some states, didn't work so well for some others. You're going to see Republicans take, I'm going to go ahead and predict that you're going to see Republicans take a slight lead here. Okay. I bet it's going to be pretty much right on the money. We're looking for roughly 1.484. Oh, that's close. Close enough. I'll get rid of the exit polls for now. I don't want it to glitch on us. Close enough. All right. Run the analysis. Generate the report. And you're going to see probably a slight Republican lead. Yeah, and that's exactly what you're getting. 34.4 to 33.1, which is what we now know the electorate to have been, roughly. What happens in many cases, we do see that 25.5% are still registered without an affiliation, but when they talk to me, they talk to an exit pollster. They do, some of them, not all of them, of course, but some are going to pick a side. So you're going to see partisanship go higher, in Pennsylvania, it'll be in the 40s, Other states, though, typically mid to high 30s, and that's exactly what happened in Nevada, 38, 37. So even when these others these nuns picked a side, Republicans ticked up by roughly the same advantage that they had overall. And that's another thing we told you that I'm going to say again, like I'm going to beat a dead horse with some of this stuff. When you turn out your side stronger, you will also turn out your independent vote stronger than the opponent. All right. That's why it's always so stupid. This concept of playing to the middle is incredibly stupid because you have to make every election is a base election, folks. Every election is a base election. And for those who argued that wasn't true, you got to play to the middle. Like, I don't know what election you were watching in 2012, in 2016. What election were you watching? These are all base elections. When you drive your side's voter turnout higher, you also motivate at a higher rate your independents, because the truth, the dirty little secret is there really isn't that much of a middle anymore. We're talking about 7 to 9% of the vote. That's it. Oh my God. Thank you, Laura. Oh my God. That's delicious. I can't do, I shouldn't. I'll eat it after. Oh my Lord. I love when summer comes and you eat fresh fruit, cantaloupe, right? What's that other melon? Somebody help me out here. It's the other. It's not cantaloupe. It's the other melon. You know what I'm talking about, right? Right. It's like there are a lot of nuns. I mean, look, there are in some states, but what I'm saying is they're not really nuns. They're not really nuns. What is it? Something honeydew. Thank you, Yanks. That was driving me nuts. Thank you. All right, if we were to put this down a little bit more, we'd get right to what turnout is. And I mean, we can do that. I can show you that. What I like to do, actually, I don't know if I should say that, but generally, let me just put it like this in general terms. I like to listen to the voters. They're going to tell you what we're looking like for turnout. And this is why I don't like to wait for party ID, because the modeling is so advanced. We're beyond having to guess as much as people want us to guess. Wow, that is almost perfect. When you add the nuns that break off and identify anyway, that is almost perfect. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. You know what? I'm curious. Let's go to Clark. I wouldn't be surprised if Washoe continued to move slightly to the left while Clark got dramatically more Republican. Yeah, that's almost exactly right. Right? How many votes did we get out of Clark in that? I want to say we got roughly in the neighborhood of 1 million votes. 1,031,000 and change. And what are we looking at here? 992. Yeah, that's pretty close. Let's generate the report with that turnout modeling. Wow. Wow. And of course, we know that is roughly right. That is roughly right. So incredible. Incredible. But Donald Trump barely lost Clark County, lost it by 2. That's because of the overlap. The Hispanic voters who are still Democrats voting for Donald Trump. Republicans are dumb. Or Republican consultants and Republican Party. They're so stupid. They are so stupid. You know, it'd be interesting to look at because it just got runaway Democratic. And yet, this election, it was like 3 points. Donald Trump almost won it. New Hampshire. Always a high turnout state. New Hampshire is always a high participation state. Got about 821,000 votes in 2024. As you can see, look at their turnout rate. Let's just run the full count and let's see what we get. I mean, that's probably right. That's probably right. Because I know that Larry Schweikert was having a canary like, hey, did you see New Hampshire? Republicans are out registering Democrats. I mean, but the independent vote or the none vote is so liberal. And I'm shocked Trump did that well, even though it was much closer. All right, let's look at the great state of Florida. 50% modeling turnout. Let's see this. We might have to go a little higher with Florida, guys. Whoops. I mean, as you can see, though, I'm trying to pick a bunch of diverse situations here. The point is, you're not seeing any shift to the left anywhere. I mean, various demographically different states from each other, not within. Florida certainly is a very diverse state, but you're looking at states that are demographically different from each other. We'll do Arizona next. I see it. Yeah, we'll do Arizona. Wow, that is like, wow, just shy. We were off by about 400 and something thousand votes, maybe 480 if I remember correctly, if memory serves. 10 million at 490. Woof, pretty close. 10,893 votes were cast in Florida. Let's see what we got here. The nuns, the others, the MPAs. Look at that. Florida's gone for Democrats. It's gone. Gone. unless you go back to being the party of Mitt Romney, I guess. I mean, never say never. I am a big believer in never say never, but this shit's a wrap. I don't even know what to tell people. It's a wrap. Florida is gonski to the Democratic Party. And they thought that they had a chance. I kid you not. Harris spent money in Florida, guys. They spent money in Florida. Wow. What a bunch of losers. If I'm a Democratic donor and the Harris campaign came to me and David Plouffe made those comments that he made, I want to take it out on somebody's ass. You made me give you all that money to get your ass kicked by 13 points. Oh my Lord. Right? 13, right? At 13.1. Damn, Donald. I guess I got to say, Mr. President. Damn. You outran Big Data Poll. Congratulations. I'm usually right on the money in Florida. What did I say we were going to do again? Arizona. That's not an easy thing to do. All right. Arizona. The Grand Canyon State. 3.3, just about 3.4, just under 3.4 million votes were cast. So let's do some modeling. This one may be a little bit tricky, actually, but let's see. Maybe not. Let's do 50. Let's do 100. Let's crank up the database. Fired up. Go to town, my little AI wonder. Go to town. 3.12. We got to go a little higher. Let's see what this one is first. We don't have to go that much higher. It's close. We're missing a couple 100,000 votes. Ooh, I'm sore, folks. Woo! Woo! Republicans are cooking in Arizona, folks. Wow. Wow. And it's female like can be. Wow. This is, what was it? Let's do Maricopa too, because before 2020, we were looking at, it was close. R+2? R+3, maybe? R+4 tops? Maricopa was even, right? Let's look at Maricopa now. Cooking with fire. Again, because of Trump. I just want to keep saying that over and over again because in case it's not clear, this is because of Donald Trump. Yes, Democrats have gone way too far to the left. They remain way out of the mainstream. Like their party platform is way outside of the mainstream American view. Okay? Way outside. And in fact, the American view has crept more and more to the right on key issues like immigration and taxes, on tariffs, on the economy in general, like everything. Certainly cultural issues. They don't view the transgender rights movement as a transgender rights, as a civil rights movement. They view it as a need for mental health treatment. And unfortunately, the mental health professionals are all fanatical ideologues as well. So like that industry is dominated. You think the polling industry is dominated by fanatics? Wow. That industry is dominated by fanatic leftists who ignore the science, and people are dead because of it. Literally. I know we're not allowed to talk about those studies anymore, but all right. Woo! Cooking. We got to go up though because we're off on the turnout 1.8. Are we? We may not be. We're low. Oh my goodness gracious. I think this is right, dude. I mean, I don't think. I mean, it's wow. Oh my God. But fear not, Democrats. Republicans are incredibly stupid, and they will mess something up in all likelihood if certain people, I don't know how I want to put this. If certain people continue to advise the president, they will mess it up. All right, I get a data restriction warning in California because states are different. You're allowed to use some stuff in certain states. You're allowed to contact people in certain states. But unfortunately, there's restrictions when it comes to some commercial stuff. But for the most part, you can you have a pass. If you're a political pollster, if you're a political campaign, you have a pass, but they still need to do those. I can't believe what I'm about to show you. I have to get it ready now because it's almost time. I just can't believe this. I can't believe you said this. Again, Devin Nunes is a national treasure for his work on the Russia collusion hoax. However, when it comes to advising the president on who he should and should not endorse, he is one of a very small team of very bad endorsement advisors. Extremely bad. And this clip I'm going to play you in a bit here, that's exactly. And by the way, I absolutely agree with some of the seats you're talking about. I think California 13 is gone if David Giglio doesn't run and actually get some support. If he does get support, and I mean, you can't just, he needs support. Like, if they listen again, that's another Devin beauty over there. John Duarte, that's perfect, example. Can tell the president, don't get involved. Let's sit this out. Let Kevin and John basically steal the seat, as they did. Let them call up the vendors and say, if you actually do what he paid you to do, you'll never work again. And that's what they did to him. And John Duarte barely won that election, but that wasn't the point. The argument was never about that particular election. The argument was about the future period of the seat. You will probably eke out a small win in that seat, but then guess what? When it's a majority Hispanic district in that area. So they were missing from the midterm electorate. I mean, it was overwhelmingly white and it was overwhelmingly old. And when those younger people and those those non-white people came back into the electorate for a presidential election, they were not going to vote for John Duarte and any other normal Republican for that matter. This new Javier Lopez they got running, he's a freaking clown, dude. A clown. And there's another guy, clown. I'm sorry, it's just true. The only way to win this district and win it solidly by like Trump's margins is to make sure that you're going to get those Hispanic votes in Chowchilla and other areas of Merced, where, by the way, it's the only areas David won in that primary. Those were the Hispanic precincts. And that's why they called him incessantly. Will you come out on the trail? Go to these neighborhoods with me. What's the matter? David's white ass was walking those ghetto streets and knocking on doors. You can't do it. You're supposed to be Hispanic. You said you're Hispanic, bro. Like, I'm a better candidate because of my last name. And oh, by the way, they work for me. Dumb ass comment would come out of your mouth like that. You should not be in politics. But exactly what I said was going to happen happened. Trump won the district. He won those voters. And so did Adam Gray. And now we are here again. They just don't learn. They don't learn their lessons. You think Sam Spencer got a demotion because of his horrible work out there? Nope. Got a promotion. By the way, somebody who stabbed David in the back was basically like a Judas, got a promotion. Good job, guys. How's Mike Garcia doing? Oh, jackass! There goes a jackass. All right, Mike. So you get the picture because we are basically out of time here, but you get the picture. Basically, no state moved to the Democratic Party. North Carolina, which was a Democrat-edged state, let's take a look at that one too. This, however, is a weird example because it is an example. We'll do the modeling and we'll do without. It is an example of a state that has high numbers of Democratic registrations, but so many of them would vote for Republicans for the presidency and for the Senate. Just under 5.7 million voted. There are 7.1 million records. We'll do the modeling in a second. Let's just see how it is with all of the records on the board, including the records that they could use to steal a state Supreme Court race. All right. I mean, this is a huge difference. They're tied at, Democrats' tiny little edge, which is going to vanish in a second. All right. Huge numbers of independents. Not independents. That is the incorrect way to characterize it. Huge numbers of nones. Okay. Let's now go to the 50% modeling. Let's see how close we get. Why do I keep getting lost in the sauce like that? You see that? I keep figuring it like they keep banning more and more, which is great. Don't get me wrong, but my eyes just don't want to accept it. All right. Run, little one, run. 5.13. That's actually really close. We're missing a couple 100,000. We're going to have to jolt this down a little bit more. We are going to have to jolt this down because we're missing like 500,000 people. That's close, but it's not that close. Let's do 35. It is, and I'll get you the exact number after I hit this. There we go. It was 5,679,000 plus votes. Close. If it went down to 30, we'd get even closer. But it's all right. Let's go ahead and run it. And the Democratic advantage, I have no doubt, will vanish. Trump, though, too. He did win more of the Democratic base than... there it is. Gonski actually turns out to be a slightly Republican advantage. If we go the rest of the way, I guarantee it's going to keep going. Let's go to North Carolina, see what the exit polls said. We know what the actual voter data is, though. Yeah, R+2 with 35% saying they're independent. That's very, very close. However, let's go down a little bit more. It was a high turnout election in North Carolina. Let's go down to 30. This means they're at least 30% likely to show up. Close. Close, close, close. Let's keep going. Let's get there. Let's get there, folks. Republican may actually go down, though, at a certain point. This is close enough. I'm curious. It may be just about even here at this point. Which you'd expect, because if the independents voted for Trump, which they did, he won them 51-47. They would be calling themselves, it's slightly Republican still, but very close. With the 35%, let's say you take away, and it's like 34.5, and you were to divvy them slightly more Republican, you're basically going to get close. You're going to get another half point to Republicans, a little down tick for Dems. Yeah. So, all right. And that is right, too, by the way, with gender. Very, very, very close. Some of these southern states, and they're Republican voting states, tend to be very female, right? They tend to be like Florida, probably 45-55, something like that. Republican men voted a higher rate in North Carolina, typically in a presidential election. So they do get boosted to like 46.7, something like that. Yeah, it's interesting. It's really close data, though. Very close. It's getting better and better and better every year. But of course, we're learning more and more and more about people. I'm not sure I like that so much, though, folks. I mean, it's my job. It's what I do. But like, it does concern me. We've never had this conversation. And no one was ever going to read the fine print of stuff like the apps you download on your phone, for instance. Nobody was ever going to read the fine print of that. And here's me like, ooh, thank you. And I pop that information, even your behavior, social media behavior, pop it right into a database. I got your DMV data. I'm not sure you like that. And so every record has attached an API ID. And think of the database as a multi-level database. It's just outputting the information in one front-facing user interface, so it looks like it's really just one database, but it's not. It's multi-level. All right. With that in mind, Crew Kid, hey Rich, hey Crew. I think DT's main Middle East trip, and what he did. Come on, man. And what he did to Ramaphosa is a big reason why Comey and his deep state buddies want him dead so damn bad. He's stuck a massive thumb in the eye of their world order. I totally agree. Totally agree. And also, too, you noticed Trump got from the Middle East to parts of Asia and Eastern Europe to stop fighting. With the exception of Russia, and I'm not sure Putin even has a preference. It's just that he's looking for other allies to balance against the Western coalition. Go to it. Come on, man. Yeah, I mean, they all agree that Iran cannot be a regional hegemon. And that's why he was able to unite them there, crew. But like Comey and his world, they may pay lip service to that, but the truth is, look at what they do with policy. They funded the invasion in Israel. They funded it, the attack on Israel, with their policy. If they would have kept those restricted exemptions from sanctions that Trump had, they would not have been able to export their oil, especially to China. And that's where they got that money from. And then they used it to fund Hamas and other militant groups. I mean, it's unbelievable. Totally unbelievable. All right. What else here? Maybe go to locals, then we'll play the clip. The Dread Robert, do you have any idea what's going on in VA? Roanoke I saw that. Roanoke did a poll and said Spangenberger by 17, but Virginia Free did a likely voter, and it was Spangenberger by 4. Are any of them worth a damn? I think, honestly, the polling in Virginia has not been very good in gubernatorial elections at all. I think Sears is behind since Trump fans find her suspect, well, with good reason. Because she was a DeSantis person and Trump is himself unpopular in Virginia, and especially after Doe's. So normies are not feeling the party, but are the R's and Sears screwed? I think they're gonna. This is like Joe Biden his party was gonna have a hard time in Virginia. Virginia has a habit of doing this a year after a presidential election, especially if it's another first term or a change in the White House. It goes like this. It happened with George W. Bush. Democrat was elected governor. Before, when it was a Republican state, right? Bob McDonnell crushed the Democratic opponent after Obama had just won in a landslide. Bob McDonnell even won Fairfax. It was insane. So yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a tough election for Republicans in Virginia. Do I think it's 17 points? No. You know, I kind of find it funny. There were polls out there, and it was a one Qantas miss. It was, which I know it burns them because we've talked about it. Because it's happened to me, and it burns me when it happens. The polling in Virginia can sometimes look closer when you're doing it. I'm not talking about the others. And then it ends up the Democrat wins pretty significantly. We did very well in the gubernatorial election. We did great. We nailed it. But that's why I didn't want to even bother polling Virginia. I just figured even if the election was close, it would mean the others were gone anyway. So the other states were worth polling more. But you may remember I talked about Roanoke College, their poll. Larry Sabato trashed the shit out of it in 2020 when it was showing Biden was going to win Virginia, but at one point it was kind of close. He trashed the shit out of it. Then when it was Biden plus 10, which he basically won it by 10, he loved it again. Then with all of the polls in 24 showing that the race in Virginia could be closer than expected, he trashed them. And Roanoke came out with a poll showing Harris was going to win by double digits, right? I don't know if they had a final poll. And then we talked about it that day because we were laughing at how he, yeah, let me just do RCP and it'll come up. We were laughing at how Sabato was going back and forth on whether or not a poll was credible based on who the hell was leading it, you know? Let's see how well they did because there were others that did better. It's just true. The Washington Post did decently. Christopher Newport University flopped. Roanoke didn't poll again. Only in August when they polled at Harris +3. Oh, we trashed them again. That's right. That's what happened. They did show that it was getting kind of close, but they don't have a final, so it doesn't really matter. It's not even in the RCP average. Only Atlas, Signal, Rasmussen, and the Washington Post are in the average, all of whom did a decent job. The Washington Post was awful everywhere else. I will say, if I remember correctly, they were wrong with Terry McAuliffe. They had Terry McAuliffe winning by, I think, 3, lost by 2. But they're not like usually when it comes. Well, no, that's not true. Ed Gillespie versus Mark Warner. I remember 2014. The Washington Post said that it was a runaway. I think Warner was going to win by like 11 or something. Maybe it was even less in their final, but I don't know. At one point, there was double digits. And it turned out to be a couple of thousand votes, which they stuffed in the ballot box, as usual, in Fairfax. Ed Gillespie almost certainly won that election. But they look, Bob Beckel was high on painkillers doing the special election coverage on Fox News that night. And he basically, while all these Republicans like Dana Perino were like, oh, this is a fight. This is guys. Oh my God, they missed a vote. And Dana was like, I called it. I told you. I called it 2 weeks ago. I totally told you. Bob was like, I hate to throw cold water on all your hopes and dreams, but we're going to steal it. Fairfax is going to come through. That's why we're holding back votes. That's what we do. We hold back votes. I remember this time back in 1971. You know, he went on this big, long thing, and they were like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Shut up, Bob. Shut up. All he was simply doing was explaining to the American public the truth. That's what they do. That's why they do it. And that's why those safeguards need to be in place, like I told you, even though it can be understandable sometimes why votes do get counted later in the process. There had to be some accountability. Like that night, we couldn't even get out of election officials how many ballots were remaining in Fairfax County. They couldn't even give it to us, or they didn't want to. And if it is required by law and the governor does nothing, then what difference does it make? Especially if it's a Democratic governor and they know damn well, that they're not going to do anything to them. All right. What am I missing here? Don't forget the links in the description below. 1775. They have it's a different one, but it's still a starter kit. There are some left, actually. I just looked at it earlier. There are some left. It is a different one. That may be why. Last time I think we ran out like Friday morning or something, and I ran a read and it was no more, and they did it anyway. They fulfilled the order anyway. But this week there is. So don't miss out. I'm not going to go through the whole spiel because I already did what was needed of me, but I do want you guys to get a good deal if you can get a good deal. All right. And it's 1775coffee.com/TPP. All right. Start your day with coffee that backs your values, clears your ears, fires you up, makes you feel like yourself again. All right. What else? What else am I missing here? Oh, the clip. Yes. We must do the clip before we go. And I'll send you guys that Pennsylvania one. I'll run the other one. Did we do Pennsylvania with the modeling? We did, right? I just want to make sure we didn't miss any. Because I remember not doing it for a few. And I thought, we did Nevada. We did Arizona. We did New Jersey. Yeah, we hit them. Show the points. We hit them. Yep. Yes, sir. All right, let's play this clip before we get out of here. And then also, did I? Oh, she's telling me I missed 2. Did I really? I did. And after Nancy Mace overpromised and underdelivered on her top off the House floor, taking her top off on the House floor,
I'm afraid this could cost the GOP big in the midterms. Not even fellow North Carolina Republican Senator Lindsey Graham has betrayed the voters this egregiously. I know. How dare she? I'm not going to say it. I was just talking to somebody about Nancy Mace the other day. I had a story to tell them. Nancy likes attention. So she didn't take her top off on the House floor? Well, I'm surprised. Honestly. She is a character. That's a shame. I just want to read this from Andrew. I really appreciate that, by the way. I just read that. I really appreciate that. I did see your Salt Lake County GOP register voter database thing. We talked about that on Sunday, too. Mark Mitchell signaling. I'll go back to Andrews in a second. Mark Mitchell signaling the alarm on the generic ballot is +1. What are your thoughts? That's about. I'm honestly surprised when we had a slight Republican advantage on the generic ballot. I expected, honestly, Democrats to be ahead. I really did. Your friends in RNC committee many talk with the White House political director and comms director about how Donald Trump chooses to endorse people during their week-long training day at Trump Doral. It is completely on who can raise money, not based on ideology. We are screwed. Yes. This is a few things. You got to go to Devin and show him polling and money. The problem is they already turned the spigots off for people who are ideologically aligned to Trump. And no matter how many, like I have 350,000 Twitter followers, something like that on X, a little bit over now. If I ran for office, I would not be able to raise money there. I have to raise money from other people. It doesn't matter if you're a social media hero. It just doesn't. That's just the reality. People don't like opening their wallets. And even when they do, whatever can be done on low dollar like that can't get the ball rolling. You need to make some calls, have some people write some big checks. Then you can start your low dollar roll. And that's even going to be a talking point. Like, look at how much I raised in low dollar donations. And that is an indicator that you have people's ears. But you still need access to the same people that are constantly the ones who are funding these candidates. And that's the whole reason why the system is broken. Because if Trump did endorse, those people are going to move over to that candidate anyway. Most of them, if not all of them, are just going to move over and say, I ain't rocking with him. And that's it. And they're going to do that. But he buries people. You know? I mean, it's stupid. I'm sorry. It is not smart how this is done. And of course, they think they have some super smart people examining who to endorse and who not to endorse. It's unbelievable. I just want to go back to this. You may now remember the guy ran for Congress. Now Brian Jackson, Mr. Congressman. This guy almost cost Donald Trump 50 delegates at least in the state of California. Do you remember this? They love him. They think he's just great. Got the endorsement like that. Dude didn't understand the instructions, or he was being I remember Harmy Dillon yelling at me. What are you doing? Tell him the truth, Harmeet. You're wrong. Either you're wrong for real on purpose or you're wrong. Now Harmeet Dillon leads the Civil Rights Division at the Department of Justice. They were about to hand Ron DeSantis California. Like, actually, what they were going to do was, Trump was always going to win it, but what they were going to do was deplete greatly the number of delegates Donald Trump was going to be propelled out of California with. Will the OG of polling please stand up? Thank you, bro. Thank you. I see where you're going here. Everyone steals your terms and your models because they can't build their own. Absolutely. It's a lot. Listen, I'm not going to name names or anything, Andrew. We all know who they are. There's a whole lot of pretenders out there, aren't they? I'm still learning, but the goal is to contribute, not recycle without credit. Good stuff. If we're going to talk data hygiene and persuasion modeling, let's at least respect the craft. Losers. Thank you. Thank you. And I hate it, Andrew. Oh my God. I hate it when they use the wrong terms or they use them interchangeably. Like, remember that guy who was like seriously arguing? Where is he now, by the way? Seriously arguing that he had discovered this new way of AI polling for Ron DeSantis, and his AI polling showed that DeSantis was only down by a few points in Iowa. First of all, that was not the first time somebody ran a scam like that. John Cardillo did it on the Glenn Beck show back when he was still on Fox News. And he's trying to sound like me, and you could tell, like, Andrew, you could tell he watched a bunch of my shows and tried to sound like me and couldn't pull it off because he didn't know the terminology, and he was like using the wrong words in the wrong spots. And it's like, oh, this is humiliating. And the worst part about it is Dana Lash and Steve Deese ate it up. Had him on their show. Tell me more. Tell me more. This is good stuff. Yeah, polling's horrible these days. This is good stuff. Whatever, Dana. Maybe the polling you push is horrible. Joke. Con Inc. is the biggest con. Like, at least you could respect MSNBC because you know what they are. They know what they are. The people know what they are. They tell everybody what they are. You know what to expect. Eric says, shit. Run for office and do the hand gesture Laura won't let you do. You're on stage. It would be funny. Instead of the Nixon, I don't know. Man, my arms. In the gym. I got to go to the gym again soon. Yeah, I mean, I'm Eric. I am absolutely talking to people about it. Absolutely. 100%. What's the worst that can happen? I could lose. Who cares? Making a statement here, you know? But I don't think I would lose. In fact, I don't think it would be close. There is this guy, and I always say, beware of veterans who run for office. And I am one. But when they show pictures of themselves in their BDUs, like, yeah, that's just the one I want for the picture. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know, rocking their M4. Like, bro, I don't enjoy looking back on my time in the service anymore. I volunteered literally my entire life because I have now got to walk around with these damn things in my body. As I gave all of that away for an effing lie. The only thing I like about it is the friends you make. Like, you will never make better friends in the civilian world. It's not possible. You don't have a bond with people in the civilian world that you will get with your battle buddies. And that's it. Period. And I just, that guy will be voting to send shit to Ukraine within weeks. It'll be like, another 90 billion. Viva Zelensky. Oh, by the way, happy birthday, Dave. It was Viva's birthday yesterday. I meant to call him and I didn't get a chance to. Laura reamed me for it. Rightfully so. So if you see him, tell him happy belated birthday. What you queuing? Ooh, for Memorial Day, probably your brisket peppers. Pulled pork on the smoker. That sounds good too. Mac and tater salad, cornbread, fresh green beans off the vine, and Nana's pudding. Ooh, that sounds good. I'm going to do probably a brisket if I can get one that I really like. If not, I may do that. I may just get smoke a, pork butt or something to be pulled. Like mac and tater salad. I'll tell you what, fresh green beans off the vine. And I bet you Nana's pudding is to die for. What kind of pudding is it? Tell me what kind. Don't tell me. Don't tell. I don't want to know. Oh, what was I thinking? No. Don't tell me. But I am going to do that, yeah. Is there a reason to believe, Mark asks, whether, usually the party in power loses in the midterms. Is there a reason to believe that trend won't hold this time? Well, there is some indication that Democrats don't have a great turnout machine ready to crank up. Like, they know what to do, they can do it, and they can get the money to do it. It's just they're a little bit rudderless right now, which will hurt them badly because usually they overpoll and underperform. They overperformed and underpolled in 22 machine. If they can crank that thing up again, then no, I don't think there's a reason to believe the Republicans will hold the House. They're stupid. They're going to nominate Javier Lopez. David's like, even if he runs, he might have a hard time raising money, but he may not run because honestly, what's the point if Devin Nunes is going to come over and piss on your campfire? Like, what's the point? You know, I already saw, by the way, 2 rounds of polling in that district. And David would win that election. He would. The toughest thing he would do is get through the primary because of how to do it. But general election, Gray versus Giglio. Giglio's going to win. He's going to win twice on Sunday. He's going to win, but all that matters on Tuesday, of course. But he's well, in California, it's like the following third Tuesday. But no, he would win it. And there's going to be things like that all over the country. And that's just sad reality. Let's play this other moron, which we can all laugh at before we go. All right. This is Randy Fine. Remember, Tony Fabrizio, the big shot, put out a Democrat +4, I believe, poll in his district. This is, of course, a very Republican district. And Randy went on to win by about 11 points, if I remember correctly. This is what he just did on Fox News. You're going to love this. You can see this, guys.
Nuked the Japanese twice in order to get unconditional surrender. That needs to be the same here. There is something deeply, deeply wrong with this culture, and it needs to be defeated.
We heard in Brooks.
Let's hear that again, just so you understand what he just said there.
We nuked the Japanese twice in order to get unconditional surrender. That needs to be the same here. There is something deeply, deeply wrong with this culture, and it needs to be defeated.
We heard in Brooks.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen. He just suggested nuking Gaza. Even if that's not what he meant, what a stupid ass comment to make. Nuking the Japanese is one of the biggest regrets the country has. They know it had to be done, but at that time, you can't judge people by today's standards. But we kind of now know better. Horrible, stupid thing to say. What a moron. I know, he clarified it, Peppers, but what an idiot, right? What an idiot. All right, don't forget, guys, if you like the videos, to like them and share them far and wide. None but love for you as always. I hope you all have a great weekend. I am going to try my level best. I'll probably do what I'm going to do, Peppers. I was thinking myself on Saturday, if possible. This way we can do book club on Sunday. I got to kick it around with locals to see. I don't want to lose half the book club because they're all on a Memorial Day barbecue or something, but we'll see. All right. Don't forget, links in the description below, and locals, sign up on locals, peoplespundit.locals.com. I will get those voter file analysis out to you. All right. I'll make a cute little graphic for it and everything, so it doesn't upload as a stupid, ugly PDF. Right. And I'll just throw them up there as I do them. And they'll be marked in the content anyway. I do believe there is a category for voter machine modeling, voter analysis modeling or something. And we'll throw it in there. All right. Sound good? All right, guys. Love you all. Thanks so much for watching. Nothing but love. True. Have a great weekend and enjoy yourselves. I'm going to try to do my best to do the same. Daddy's home, kids.